a great story in itself. It's do you think that it sort of encouraged you to get into teaching because you have that history? Because it's quite interesting, you said at the start that you hadn't quite you didn't realize how impressive that is until you say it to other people and they say, goodness, a fourth generation, oh my goodness, that's crazy. So do you feel like you were impacted by that?
I think I've always felt like I literally have got teaching in my bloodstream. I mean, from a very, very young age, I wanted to teach. I definitely know from the age of 10 that I was keen to become a teacher from an early age. I used to run, I've got a younger sister who's 6 years younger than me, and I would run all of her little children's birthday parties at home. I just used to really love it. I used to help in the local brownie group. So being around children was certainly, like I say, almost in my bloodstream. And then obviously having both my parents as teachers, I didn't talk about my dad's route into teaching, but it was my mum that persuaded my dad to go into teaching when I was born. So I was child number 3 in the family. Previously to that, my dad had been a professional opera singer and needed a bit more of a stable job. So teaching was suggested, and off he went to do his training. So so both my parents were teachers. So they were a huge influence in me choosing that career. Yeah.
Wow, goodness. Okay. So I mean, I almost have too many questions for you. I feel like after the show, or maybe not after the show today, because I know you've had a really long day today. But another day, I feel like I need to call you up and just ask you, hundreds of questions. But why don't you tell us, what was your first memory of school?
Oh, okay. Okay. So first memory of school. I went to 3 different schools. So I went to an infant school, then I moved to go to a different junior school, and then I moved again to go on to a different secondary school. I think my first memory of school was in my infant school. I remember having a really strict teacher. I do know her name, but just in case she's listening, I'm not sure she's actually still here. God love her. But I do remember that she was a very, very strict teacher. You didn't dare put a foot wrong. And I distinctly remember drinking the warm milk from blue straws directly out of the bottle that we were sort of subjected to on a daily basis, and learning to read using the Jennifer Yellow Hat, Billy Blue Hat books.
Okay, I don't know those.
You know, I was really hoping you would, Holly. I think you're a bit younger than me, so maybe I'll have to hunt them out on eBay and send you a copy, because they certainly taught me, and I think many generations before me, to read. So,
my first sort of phonics memories from school were Letterland. I don't know if you remember Letterland, or maybe that was after.
Know, but it wasn't. I didn't learn through that scheme. But no, it's definitely Jennifer Yellow Hat, Billy Blue Hat, and Roger Red Hat. I've got to find them for you.
Very original. Lovely. So, I mean, was it a positive time for you at school, though, when you were a child? Did it feed into that desire to want to become a teacher?
Do you know? Because there's 2 answers to that. Was it a positive time for me? Not entirely. Did it feed into my desire to become a teacher? Yes. And I think that's probably because it wasn't always a hugely positive experience for me at school. And therefore, I almost thought it my job and my desire to be the teacher I never had. I never had. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I thought there was one really inspirational teacher who took me under her wing, and it was when I was having a really tough time in what is the equivalent now of year 6, so the last year of primary school, and I just didn't see eye to eye with my year 6 teacher, and I just had a bit of a rough time in the classroom, to be honest. And my younger sister had just started in reception at the same school, and the year 6 teacher saw it as her way out to send me out of the classroom to this reception class. And, just basically, out of sight, out of mind idea. maths. And so I'd spend a large amount of my time. It's a wonder I got as far as I got, really, because I spent a large part of my final year at primary school in reception, helping out, cutting things out, preparing resources. And like I say, this teacher, Mrs. Sarah Wilson was her name. She really took me under her wing, and it was that, I think, as coupled with the fact both my parents were teachers, that made me really want to be. I saw another side of teaching. I saw another side of teachers, should I say. The type of teacher I wanted to be was this reception school teacher, and that's what gave me my desire, really, to go on and pursue that.
It also sounds a little bit like there's a bit of a parallel there with great aunt. Was it great aunt Lena?
Yes.
When you said that, she started off as a little bit of a student teacher and helping out with the younger ones.
Yes.
And it sounds like that's what you did too. You came down and helped with cutting things
I
out.
was. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I was the pupil teacher of my dad. Not through choice, I wouldn't say. But actually, yeah, it in many ways it was the making of me. And so I remember this teacher left the year I left because she used to have a hobby making teddy bears, and she gifted me one of her handmade bears, and it is still on my bed today. And it's the bear that she made, and she gave it to me, and she left the teaching profession to pursue this hobby of making teddy bears. And interestingly, like I say, we'll come to what I'm doing now, but I have also left the profession to pursue an interest in craft. So
yes.
it's just, yeah, I mean I don't attribute that specifically to her, but again, sort of drawing on these memories and pulling it all together for chatting to you today, I just suddenly realized that sort of correlation and thought, wow, isn't it interesting?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I certainly think that they're, for me, and when I've spoken to other people about their favorite teachers, I see so many connections between the teachers we become and the teachers that we relied on or idolized as children. I think we draw so much from them, and those connections, it's weird, isn't it, that she left to pursue a craft profession, and so did you, but maybe there is something in it, possibly.
Yeah, maybe, who knows. Yeah.
So why don't you tell us your training route to become a teacher then, and how you ended up in the classroom?
Yeah, so I I did my A-levels, and then I took a gap year, and then I went on to do a 4-year BA honours degree, at Winchester University. What is Winchester University now? It was King Alfred's College at the time. And I specialised in drama. And I did my dissertation in how drama can influence children's writing. So I did that, and then I left. I left with my 2-1 degree from Winchester and started at the school where I left 4 years ago. So I did 15 years teaching at the same school.
Wow. I mean, how was that for you? Because that's doesn't so commonly happen these days, I don't think. I'm just guessing there, and I did start my career in London, so I know in London there's a lot more movement between schools. But
yeah, I mean I'm London, and I remember the head teacher that employed me saying, the best piece of advice I can give you, this was me just getting my new job at the school, is don't stay here for too long.
They always say that, don't they?
Yeah. And actually, looking back, I can totally see why he said that. But it was more circumstances that made me stay at the school I was at. It was I had a very varied career during my 15 years there. And actually I went part-time just after I did 2 years full-time, and then I went part-time because I had this craft hobby stroke business running in the background, which I'm now doing full-time. So I did that after only doing 2 years full-time teaching. So then I was part-time, and I did a bit in the classroom. I did a bit of PPA cover, a bit of supply teaching. And then I sort of increased my days a bit more. And then I became the deputy head, and then I did my Senko training at the school and became the Senko as well. So within that 15 years, it wasn't as if I just stayed as a year 5 teacher in the same classroom in the same school. It was.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like there a lot of diversity in the roles that
Absolutely.
you did in the school across all of that time.
Yeah.
And I think that even though we get told not to stay too long in our first school or in one spot, I think when you find the right school and the right team, sometimes it's just so tempting to stay. If it,
Yeah,
you know
this is
that
it.
the old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, indeed.
Um,
That's right.
I completely fell in love with the first school I taught at, but um, I was a teaching assistant to start with, and they weren't able to train me on the job, so I had to move on to another school that would, and it was pretty heartbreaking, I must admit. Looking back, I think had I have trained at that school, then I probably would still be there now. I absolutely loved it, but
Yeah.
I'd be just like you, I think, 15 years in and still there. But
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. Maybe if I'd moved around a little bit more, I wouldn't have. You know, felt like I needed to sort of move on after 15 years and pursue something completely different. But who knows? I mean, I had some really happy years over that 15 years, and it became like a second home. And you know, it's a really special, still a very special time of, you know, of my life, and I look back on it very fondly.
lovely. That's so nice to hear. So why don't you tell us how you moved out of the classroom, and if you use any of your transferable teacher skills that we're always being told we have in your new line of work.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, without a doubt, I use those skills. I'm now full time, so having sort of dabbled with a craft business in the background whilst doing part time teaching, I'm now full time. I own my own business called Flying Colours Pottery, which is a pottery painting business. So I sort of facilitate workshops, pottery painting experiences, and then I glaze and fire the pottery in my kiln, which I have in the bottom of the garden in a workshop. And
Oh, lovely. My mum would be very envious of you.
oh, well, hello, Holly's mum. I know she's listening. So, hello, do check out Flying Colours Pottery on Instagram and have a look at all my bits and bobs. But yeah, so I definitely use my teaching skills. I facilitate workshops, so organizational skills, planning, preparing, making sure I've got all the resources, making sure I've got that little something up my sleeve for those early finishers, you know, differentiating tasks. And
Gosh, yeah, I didn't think of all those things, differentiating things,
yeah,
extension tasks. It must just cross over quite naturally.
yeah, and actually it's funny because nor did I think about it until I spoke to my sister today, who as you know, has just arrived in the UK from America, hence my busy day. I was talking to her in the car on the way back from the airport, sort of saying what I was doing tonight, and she was like reeling off all these things. I was like, oh yeah, so I do that. And I think when you're a teacher, it sort of comes so naturally to you that I didn't sort of really break it down like that. But yes, certainly, I mean, just having an awareness of learners, really, whether they're children or adults, breaking down that process step by step and coaching them through the process so that they really do end up with something at the end that they're really proud of and really, you know, satisfied with. So and then all the organization and background stuff that goes on with that, all the plate spinning that quite literally goes on in real life here. But you know,
Yes, well, I can empathise with that, certainly.
yeah, so you know, it stands you in good stead, I think. And
Yeah.
you know, once a teacher, always a teacher. And I really do think, you know, feel that I certainly haven't shut the door on teaching. It's, you know, it's given me a lot of skills to take forward into what I'm doing now. Yeah.
And but on all accounts, it's in your blood.
Well,
So
there we go. I can't shut the door on it. It will be with me forever.
oh, Charlotte, it has been so nice to
Oh, thanks,
to hear
Holly.
your story. And you sent me some really gorgeous black and white photos of your ancestors. So maybe with your permission, I might be able to share them on social media. Maybe can I
Yeah,
ask
I'm
you after
sure.
the show?
I'll just double check with my mum. I'm sure she'll be happy with that. But let me just double check, and I'll get back to you to let you know. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
they're gorgeous photos, and you know, really special to have. So it would be lovely if other people could get to see those too.
Yeah, absolutely. Lovely. So thank you so much, Charlotte.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for inviting me
It's been
along.
a great chat. And like I said, I probably will call you up again sometime and just be like, tell
Thanks,
me some
Grace.
more about
Well,
this.
I love
these
the work you've
stories.
been doing as well, Holly. been, you've been a real inspiration during lockdown. So well done you.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so kind.
No worries.
Right. So
somehow we've got to end this call, I guess.
Yeah, we need to work that out. I think that you probably just
I think I do it at my end. Yeah, I can see where to do it, I think.
Hang up, okay. And
Okay.
I'm going to go to an advert to give me a little breather that I've got my first guest done. Things seem to be going smoothly. Mum is watching or listening, and people seem to be liking the show. So yeah, it's all going well. So I'm going to head over to the adverts, and after the adverts, I will be speaking to Felix Oviedo, who is a Spanish teacher in London, and he kind of accidentally fell into teaching whilst studying abroad. So we're going to hear his story after the adverts.
Need support with your phonics teaching? Did you know Oxford University Press now has 3 DFE validated programs to help you? Read Write Inc Phonics, Floppy's Phonics, and the brand new Essential Letters and Sounds. Essential Letters and Sounds will get all your children reading well, quickly, using phonics books you may already have in your classroom. Developed by the Knowledge Schools Trust English Hub, it's affordable, easy to use, and makes teaching phonics with letters and sounds more effective. Whatever your school's phonics needs, Oxford has the solution. To find out more and receive support from your expert local educational consultant, visit oxfordprimary.com/phonics. Do you struggle with people pleasing? Is it a constant battle managing different and difficult personalities? Why not inspire, challenge, and empower your team through the MAL CPD Essential Coaching Skills for School Leaders course? Or gain practical skills to become a strong and compassionate leader through the Assertive Leadership and the Emotionally Intelligent Leader courses. All MAL CPD courses are accredited by the Institute of Leadership and Management. Find out more at www.malcpd.com. Every teacher loves stationery, right? Imagine getting a selection of fun, beautiful, and unique stationery items designed and selected especially for teachers, delivered through your door every month. You need to check out teacherslovestationery.club.
I'm always so excited when the box arrives. It's such a treat.
My Teachers Love Stationery Club box is just a little treat to myself every month.
It's always full of delightful and surprising items, including some really good quality stationery brands.
And because you never know what you're going to get, it makes it even more fun and special when you get it.
Visit teacherslovestationery.club and enter the code TTRadio when you buy your first stationery box to save £2 today. teacherslovestationery.club.
Okay, right. So those were the adverts. So before we talk to Felix Oviedo, which I'm really looking forward to, just a few comments that we've had in the chat. So we've got people popping into the chat, leaving their comments, saying hello. So we've got, let's see. Well, of course, as I said earlier, my lovely mum is tuning in to. Let's see. Oh, Lara says, how did you manage to become an English teacher without Jennifer Yellowhat in your childhood? I have no idea who this Jennifer Yellowhat is. Someone educate me. Tell me more. Share it in the chat. I need to know about this. Will it improve my teaching practice, or is it something I should know that I've just not remembered from my childhood? Right. Lara says, forgot this was your first show. It sounds great. Thank you so much, Lara. Yes, it's my first show. And unlike all of my other first Facebook Live, first Instagram Live, they were all 10 minutes, 30 minutes, kind of just winged it a little bit, as you do. But can't really wing an hour and a half on the radio that all of the other really credible people in your profession can listen to. So yeah, had to be a little bit smooth this time. So going well. Right. So I haven't got Felix calling in just yet, but as soon as Felix calls in, we're going to hear his story about how he accidentally came into teaching. So hopefully, Felix, if you're listening, yes. There we go. Felix is calling in. So, did that work? You might need to call again, Felix. Okay. Here we go. Hello. Hello, Felix.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Hello,
How
good
are
evening,
you? Do you know what? It's really good to talk to you, Felix. So I should probably say first, before we get chatting, the school I mentioned earlier, my very first school where I was a teaching assistant, that I absolutely loved. We met very briefly working together at that school, didn't
Yes,
we?
that's correct.
So that was some years ago now, and I mean, I don't think I've seen you since, although we have stayed in touch over social media, as you do throughout the years. But it really is, when you told me your route into the classroom a few days ago, when you said that you would love to come on and talk about it, I was really quite blown away. I just hadn't expected that from you. I kind of just assumed that you were great with kids, so I just assumed that you love kids, you know, you loved being in the classroom, you were a little bit of a performer, and you naturally became a teacher. But it seems that wasn't necessarily the case. So why don't you let's start with you telling us about your studies and how they took you to studying overseas and how you ended up discovering teaching.
Okay, so I was a bit of a nerd when I was in uni.
Never.
To go to America for a year. The deal with the scholarship is like I was supposed to teach 2 classes and I could take 2 classes. Obviously, if I wanted to go to pursue like a master's degree, I could take graduate classes,
Mm.
which I did. But the whole point for me was just like improving my English, getting some work done, getting my master's degree. Like the whole part of teaching is kind of like I was forced into it, and I thought, you know, I'll just do it, whatever. It's
Were
part of
you
what I have to
dreading
do.
it to start with? I mean, were you like, oh God, I've got to do this just because it's going to pay for?
Yeah, it felt
the
a
other
bit like
classes?
punishment. It was like, oh, you know, that's the part of the deal. I'm gonna have to bite the bullet and just do it.
Mm.
Funny enough, as I mentioned to you before, is I felt the responsibility of what I was doing. Suddenly, day after day, I was in front of 30 odd people, and I could not wing it. That's when you suddenly you have the fear for it, you have the respect for it, and I thought, listen, this is not the bad part. This is actually the good part. I need to enjoy this too because I can learn so much from what I'm doing here in front of them. And
Because you are forced, aren't you, into preparation and doing things properly when you've got a class of learners in front of you. And I suppose, would you say more so because they were all am I right in thinking they were all undergraduate students?
yeah, they were undergraduate students in
They're
university.
grown-ups though still, aren't they? So you know they can catch you out. They can tell if you've had 1 hour's sleep and haven't prepared anything.
Something that didn't know is, or they didn't know back at the moment, is that I wasn't that much older than them. So it's like really when I started growing my beard, so I would look older and I would dress really formal, so they will think I was, you know, he's a professor, he's a teacher.
Yeah.
I create that distance. It wasn't really there. Like I was 23 and some of them were 18, 19. So it was literally 4 years apart. It wasn't much more than that. And it went really fast from looking at the clock and being like, oh my God, like my class is in 5 minutes. I'm completely panicked. To oh my God, my class started 5 minutes ago and I'm still not there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so because I was so relaxed about it, I was enjoying it so much. It was such fun to actually do it. But again, it was the responsibility of it, like thinking I need to prepare my classes, the ones that I'm a student in, and I had a lot of work on for my master's degree that I had
So
to do.
what was your master's degree, Felix, that you were
My
studying?
master's degree was in English. As you know,
okay.
I'm a trained English teacher, not a language teacher.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. So you were doing an English master's degree in at what university was that at?
It's St. Bonaventure University. Is a Franciscan university in Western New York.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. Did you have a fabulous time?
I did. I have to say, I was quite busy with my studies and I was really serious about it. I was quite committed. But, the environment and the friends, I was part of the International Association of Students. I have friends from all over the world now. I have friends and I keep in touch with them, like obviously in America, but like in China, in Russia, in the Philippines, in Thailand, in Australia, in South Africa, and I keep in touch with all of them.
And that's something I think that studying abroad really gives people, doesn't it? It does give you those connections all over the world. It gives you a sofa to crash on almost anywhere, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
So you were doing your English masters, and you were what classes were you teaching to the undergraduates? Was it Spanish or English?
Yeah, the first year was Spanish 101 and Spanish 102, like the first term and the second term. So like quite basic, like the numbers, the colors, telling time. But I thought it was a responsibility again, because I thought if I do it right, not only they will take 102 with me, they will go further and take 201, 202 the following year, maybe continue doing like a double major, doing Spanish and something else. So I thought if I don't do it well, that's going to be my fault. If they don't get Spanish students for next year, that's going to be my fault.
Oh, wow. So it's that sense of personal responsibility over their academic success, but also, the institution that you're teaching for, their success and continued numbers and growth. I suppose, did you feel a lot of pressure, or was it just the personal responsibility?
It's kind of like the American style is quite laid back. So my boss, my head of department, Fran Bianco, who I still keep in touch with, he was just really relaxed. I was supposed to be a teaching assistant, but I wasn't. I had my own classes. Nobody ever bothered to come and see what I was doing. Trusted me. So they knew
no Ofsted then in your
no. But they realized that I was so stressed about it. It's like, he's doing a good job.
That's I think that the stress and showing that you care about what you're teaching, I think that's a big signal that you're putting in everything you've got. And we all know that, and everything you've got is the best you can do, isn't it? It's the very best you can do. So this group of students, do you have any did they all pass? Did they all stay on to do further Spanish modules? And tell us how that then made you, how did you get from there to being in the London suburbs in a secondary school teaching GCSE Spanish? Tell me.
That's a long story. Some of
well,
them.
we've got about 10 minutes.
Okay.
So
some of them
go down that route.
Some of these students, yes, they continue with studying Spanish. Some of them actually married Latino people. So,
oh wow, okay.
I keep in touch with them, and they tell me, "Oh my God, Felix, I thank you so much for what you did. Like, I would not have met my wife if I didn't know in Spanish." And
wow,
I feel like
good
really
job you took that
for
personal responsibility.
Yeah.
There might be some children in the world that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for your teaching.
A couple of students who met in my class, and they married and they have 2 kids now. It's like, I'm responsible for that.
Lovely. So sorry, I digress. Tell us how you went from that teaching experience to then becoming the teacher that you are today.
So after that, after finishing my master's degree, I came back to Spain. I was teaching different jobs. I started working at a cultural center, and I was doing language there, but like I was doing English as a foreign language. But I thought the job was quite limited. Like they didn't think big, and I wanted to make more out of the job. So every year we introduce new stuff. Like I started doing also French classes. I started helping people to get into the university access exam in Spain. People who had never been to school, like train them into English so they could access their basic high school degree diploma that they never got.
Okay.
Uh,
It sounds very much like you sort of latched onto that personal responsibility to give your best to someone to help them to do their best. Am I right in thinking that?
I think so. It's just like I felt like I felt the vocation, I felt the call of teaching, the reward of giving, and lots of it was quite altruistically. I tried to teach English. I don't know how much I succeeded with that to a Russian couple. They didn't speak any Spanish. I didn't speak any Russian, so we all ended up learning a little bit of everything, of English, Russian, and Spanish.
Fabulous.
Then the situation, the economical crisis in Spain really started to hit. And I was looking for options out of it. And to become a high school teacher in Spain, you have to pass a state exam. And one of the lessons that you have to prepare is understanding the American educational system and the British educational system. I had been in America, so I knew about it, but I had never been in England. And I was really confused how you go from Key Stage 3 to Key Stage 4 and then to sixth form. So I thought, okay, 3, 4, and 6. Where is number 5?
I hadn't thought of that, but you're right. That's a little bit confusing, isn't it?
Yeah. So I posted in a forum asking for that, and a friend of mine now, my friend Paul, he said, "Oh, well, this is like old terminology. Actually, sixth form is Key Stage 5." So we started talking. Oh, where are you from? I'm from Seville. I'm from Spain. What do you teach? I teach English here as a foreign language. Oh, I'm teaching music. So send me a picture of your classroom. How do you do it in there? And obviously, I showed him how we just have like a chalkboard, no intelligent boards, and nothing like that, no technology. And when the situation became worse and worse, he said, like, I think that your curriculum is quite marketable. And if you could, maybe you could try and get a job in England if you wanted to, like maybe London. So he kind of helped me a little bit at first.
He planted that seed, didn't he?
Yeah. It was like he put the curiosity of coming to London in me. And, like I tried a couple of times. It was back when this accident with the volcanic cloud from Iceland was happening, and I couldn't fly. I had an interview that I missed because of that, and but I finally got a job here. I actually got a couple of interviews since from living in Spain, and then I decided to come over here, find a job in here, and settle.
And the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah. I started as an English teacher, as you know. Like my first 2 schools, I was doing English. But one of the part that I didn't like about the teaching English here is that I loved Shakespeare, and I loved teaching poetry. And teaching year 11 was just like rushing them through the curriculum so they could access the material to get to the assessment.
Yeah. And is it not like that then in Spain? Are they given more time to enjoy how enriching literature is before having to be tested?
Yeah, it's not so test based, and testing is not set by the government or by examining boards. So the students that are good, they study because they want to learn, because they love what they're doing. So if you get reading into them, they become really good readers, and they don't do it because they have to pass the test.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, that's how I feel all teaching and learning should be. If we instill that curiosity and that love of learning in them, and they are readers and they are exploring literature and so on, that naturally gives them the skills that they need to be successful in exams, you would hope.
Yeah,
But
I completely agree. I always tell them, if you learn, you will pass, but if you pass, doesn't mean that you learned.
yes. That is a good way of putting it. So why don't you tell us, tell me some of your favorite moments from the classroom before I sadly have to let you go.
One crucial moment for me was teaching at the beginning. And I had a kid in my class, Scott McKay. He was fantastic in lesson. He would participate 100% in the lesson, but then he will test really poorly. And I was not as a veteran teacher that I am now, with 24 years of experience. But I thought there's something wrong because obviously he's trying his best, and he still doesn't succeed in passing his exams. So I suggested to test him. We went to the learning center at the university, and was really weird for me. It's like somebody who was as fresh and as new as me realized that there was something wrong in there that we could help that kid with. And they didn't realize that he was dyslexic until he got to university.
Oh, wow. Imagine it being, it does happen, doesn't it? But it's being left that late. Fortunately, I think that happens less now than it did going back 10, 20, 30 or more years. But wow, how did that make you feel to know that you'd picked up on that?
It made me feel that I was doing the right thing.
Do you think that sort of reinforced your passion to stay within sort of teaching and
that's one of the moments in which I felt that was the call. It's like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm going to change that kid's life. I could change the life of many kids after that one.
Yeah, I think we all have those moments, don't we, where that quite early on in your career, and you do make that big difference to a child, and when you get that buzz, that sort of high feeling, knowing that you've made quite a dramatic difference, you can't walk away from the profession, I think, after that. Not immediately anyway, eventually. But what a lovely moment to tell us about. Thank you so much, Felix.
My pleasure.
So I'm going to have to bring this really interesting chat to a close, because I do need to get the news read out before we move on to speak to Lara from Theatre of Science. So I hope, Felix, that you'll stick around and listen to Lara's story.
I will.
I don't know if you've seen any of her lessons on Facebook Live or anything.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Yes.
Yeah, well, she's viral, so I think most people have seen Lara's brilliant lessons. But Felix, thank you so much for speaking to me this evening. You've made me feel so at ease as well, given that it is my first show. So it's been nice to speak to essentially an old friend. Not that you're old, that you're an old friend. Right. Well, I hope to speak to you again soon, Felix. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Right, so as I said, it is time now to move over to the news, and then after the news we will be speaking to Lara from Theatre of Science. Now the news is a few minutes long, so you've got a very short window to go and Google Theatre of Science, and once you've Googled it, feel free to come and give me a question for Lara. I'm quite happy to ask her your questions. She is a viral online science teacher. Her lessons have gone absolutely nuts during lockdown, and they're just hugely popular from children age 5, 6 upwards, all the way to adults. I'm not going to lie, I do sit and watch the shows by myself sometimes. I'm not sitting watching them with children. They're just really interesting and really funny and well put together. So any questions for Lara, pop them into the chat, and when I'm speaking to her, I'll try and get you the answers.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
this is your latest Teachers Talk Radio News with Gail Glenn. In Scotland, from the 20th of September, all staff working in schools will be able to access a toolkit of LGBTQ+ inclusive teaching resources and will have to complete a basic awareness course. LGBTQ+ history and topics will now be taught and integrated into everyday learning, making Scotland the first country in the world to make this mandatory. John Swinney, Deputy First Minister, praised the changes when they were confirmed earlier in the year.
Okay, so that was the news. So we will be talking to Lara from Theatre of Science very shortly, but just before we do, I thought I'd share some some sweet little comments that I had from the students in my literary analysis class last night. So on a Wednesday, I hold what I call Analyse This, where children from 9 to 13, that sort of age range, they come along and we look at an extract and we analyse it. And I asked them to stay back for a couple of minutes after the class and tell me what makes a teacher happy. So as you can imagine, there were a collection of hot coffee, listening skills, all of the obvious things. And lots of really sweet little answers too. So we also had answers such as being kind, and also my favourite one was apples, and that came from Olivia, who is 8, and it made me chuckle. What makes teachers happy? Apples. Yeah, I'm going to need a bag of apples, I think, after this. So, oh, Leanne says chocolate in the cupboard for quick nibbles. Yes. I've actually got some next to me, but I'm too scared to eat any in between because I'm a little bit worried there isn't a mute button on my microphone, and you don't need to hear me chomping away. on my Caramac. Right, so Lara, if you're listening, it'd be lovely if you could call in. And I think, are we doing this? Is that how it is? Have I invited you? Will we be talking soon? Hello.
Hello.
Lara!
Hi.
Do you know, as I said
It
earlier on, I'm
worked.
going to have my fangirl moment now. It's so nice to...
It was so nice listening to your like little spiel about me before I came on. It's like, God, she's so much better at this than me. When people ask me what I do, I just go, oh, you know, just teach like on the computer.
It is a
Yeah,
little bit like
everything's
that. Like,
fine.
I find it hard to sort of explain what I do. And actually, in fact, when I had my training for teaching,
Hello?
are we still there? Hello?
Oh no,
I can hear you,
can't hear you
Lara.
at all.
Have you muted yourself?
Wait, hello?
Hello?
Oh, how embarrassing.
Right, let's see if we can disconnect.
I'm just looking at people's comment. I think that's your mum saying
And-
wine.
Yeah, my mum's suggesting wine
Maybe
might
you can hear
actually
me.
be. We can hear you. Oh, good. How do we sort this out?
Oh
I'm
wait,
gonna put a
you're
comment in the
back.
chat
You're
for
back.
you. Ah,
Weird.
lovely. Okay, I'm not
Sorry.
quite sure what happened there.
This is
Lara.
brilliant, isn't it? It's just two viral online teachers. what could possibly go wrong?
So for those of you that hadn't heard of me as in English with Holly or Lara before this evening, we both went viral with our teaching offering at the start of lockdown. We didn't know each other. We've still not met in person, but we kind of us and Steph, who did live maths lessons at the same time and also went viral. We all started messaging each other saying, oh my God, this is crazy. Is it crazy for you? How are you finding it? How are you coping? How do you do this? How do you set up events? How do you do your live streams? And we all just sort of, the three of us came together as just a wicked group of women who, you know, loved our subjects and were just trying to do the best we could during lockdown. But were, especially in the early days, and it seems now too, fraught with technical problems and just winging it and wobbling through, you know, what we were doing, trying to help. That literally thousands, didn't they, Lara? Thousands tuned in to our lessons in the first lockdown.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah. It's so weird, isn't it? Like you suddenly realise how, like, what goes on in the brain of a millionaire. Where, like, obviously it's massively dropped off now, but there was sort of a couple of weeks. It was like, God, only 800 people. Oh, what have I done wrong? Oh, how do I get more?
Well, you're not doing too badly. When I pop in to see your live classes, there's always lots of people joining in, and you have the Science Alliance, but we will come to that. So in your own words, what is theatre of science?
Oh, whoa.
This, I didn't give you a warning.
God, that's a lot, isn't it?
It's
It's just me turning on a Facebook live stream twice a week with a lesson or a show that I've planned, and anyone. It's the weirdest business model. I couldn't have imagined this business model. It's just I do all my lessons online for free. Anyone who's got a Facebook account can watch them for free, and they're all saved in my video section, so you can watch those for free as well. And in my group, I upload every week like an optional printout, so anyone who's got a printer can like have the worksheets in front of them, and that's free as well. And then people who come, you know, and regularly and enjoy it. Obviously, a kind of lesson with worksheets is already a product that a lot of people are used to paying for. So if they want to pay me, instead of, you know, me having to have like 10 people on Zoom and them all paying me a tenner, people who want to go to Patreon, which people who are listening to this might have heard of because it's more a podcast thing, isn't it? Like how you support people who do things for free. So people who want to support me on Patreon with £3 or £5 or £10 a month, and I write a magazine because husband is a graphic designer, so that worked out well. So we produce this magazine every 2 months that gets posted to anyone who supports me with £5 a month. So yeah, it's like everything is free, but you can choose to pay me for my lessons if you want. And enough people come that I am making a living, but they're getting quite good value as well.
It's a wonderful thing, isn't it, to be able to teach what you love in the way that you love teaching it, without any of the constraints of the school system or being in the classroom, and being able to actually say, I'm making enough now that this is my main job.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, I said in the lesson the other day, it's like, this is my dream job. And then I said, actually, it's not. I couldn't possibly have dreamed of a job like I had a dream the other day, like where my house flooded. It's not, I couldn't have imagined a job as good as this.
I have those moments too, actually, and frequently to my mum, who I know is listening, I might screenshot a news article about me or something, or when I recently wrote an article for the Week Junior, and I sent her it, and I said 2 years ago I could never have imagined that I would be living my dream job right now. It's just it's insane, and I think for both of us, Laura, it's really nice that we really did throw ourselves out there during the first lockdown, and were really open to criticism as well. I know for you, but for me also, there were people saying, oh, you spelt that wrong, or this isn't going fast enough pace for my child. And we just did it, and actually helping that many people during such a tough time the universe has repaid us, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's been such an interesting psychology. Like, there's absolutely no way that I would have just turned on a Facebook live stream and been like, do you know what people want? People probably want to hear me talking about science. Like, there are so many good teachers out there, and there's so many incredibly slick YouTube videos. But yeah, you sort of just find a niche, don't you? And
I think
it's like it was such an amazing situation that there was an actual need. Like, how often do people need you to do anything? Before I was teaching, I was acting. Like, no one needs anybody to do acting. Any job that I went for, there were like literally hundreds of small brown-haired girls who would do a perfectly good job if I wasn't there. So for like all the horrors, for me, COVID was just someone needed me to do something, which is just the most amazing feeling.
Yeah, I wonder, we've never really spoken about this side of it before, but did you find because you've got small children, I've got small children, lockdown was a tough gig for everyone, but in some ways it was a different kind of tough gig if you had little children at home. Did you find doing this kept you positive, focused, I don't know, energized? How did it transform your lockdown in a positive way, but more I'm talking more mentally rather than
yeah, well, just massive distraction. Like, I feel I was just so busy. Like, I'm sure you were the same. I can't believe it now. I suppose it really helped that I didn't have to like get up at a certain time the next morning, or put makeup on, or do any of that like boring stuff that you just take for granted when the world's sort of normal. But I would just be up at 2 o'clock in the morning, like in my kitchen, lighting candles to try and work out how you could get this activity to work, and replying to messages. And I wasn't even watching the news, any kind of sense of horror, or I feel like I'm sort of probably going to need counselling in a few years' time, because it's suddenly going to hit me what happens, because I was just so busy, which I guess was the same for all teachers. Like, oh my goodness, I mean, how busy I was compared to how busy school teachers were.
Yes, absolutely. But I think that they had it a lot worse than we did, because they had hundreds of parents all demanding different things, and all of that expectation of having to recreate what they normally do in the classroom, but in some way online or through worksheets or other like teaching resources and materials. Whereas we just went, well, just gonna do this and see what happens. And
the beauty of our stuff was that if people didn't like it, they could just turn off. Like, I was watching,
and we didn't lose our jobs.
No, exactly. I was watching my son's teacher, like, having already taught a lesson for the kids that were the children of key workers, so were in school, then having to do a job twice online. But obviously, to all the parents watching, you're sort of assuming, oh, well, this is what she's like as a teacher. If she gets something wrong, or if she fumbles over something, she's not a very good teacher. It's like, imagine having to do your job suddenly in front of an enormous audience and using all this technology for the first time. Like, of course it wouldn't be anything like the same.
No, absolutely. You're right. So I did invite you on to talk about how you became a teacher and how becoming a teacher then led you on to creating Theatre of Science. So I wondered if you could just tell us a little bit about how and why you became a teacher.
Oh yeah, well, I was working as an actor in London. I used the term working and actor very loosely, and just got fed up with there just being no need for me. There were so many other people who were so good at the job, and you've got to have so much drive and want it so hard and know that you're better than everybody else. I just didn't have that at all. So I just decided that I wanted to do the opposite of acting. And the opposite of acting is having a job, and a job that someone will pay you to do like every month, and a routine. And I really wanted to use my brain again. I'd been really academic at school, and I was just so tired of just studying stuff that had come out of somebody's head, like just living in the world of everything is made up. So physics was kind of the opposite of that. Or so I thought. Obviously now I know that science is all about imagination and acting is all about analysing it. They're all, there's no such thing as subjects really. But at the time, physics teaching was just exactly what I wanted, because it was performative, but it was helping, and there definitely was a need. And also, kind of conveniently for me, with that need came the government giving you loads of money to train. Like I couldn't have afforded to train as a teacher of anything other than physics or food technology.
Leanne in the chat has just said that teaching is most definitely acting, and I definitely think there is. My degree is drama and English, so we both have this sort of performance thing sort of hovering behind what we do in our live lessons, I think. But do you think that you use a lot of your acting skills when you're teaching, or?
Well, I do, yeah, I do. But I do think that kind of does teaching a massive disservice as well. Like, I know like that it's so much more than that, isn't it? Anyone who is a teacher knows that actually, well, like I think lockdown really showed that. I just keep, popping up in my Facebook stream keeps being like Brian Cox, who is teaching everyone a lesson today, and I click onto it and it's like, Brian, you're just explaining stuff, you're just performing to camera an explanation. I'm not teaching, and actually it's really rude to say that it is.
I can see what you're saying. Yeah, and also I think acting as well is, there's, in my mind, acting is not fake. I'm looking for the right words, but it's not real. There's it's not a natural reality, and I don't know if teaching, well, for me anyway, when I was in the classroom, I felt like I was being a real version of me and connecting with my students, and acting. Maybe I was acting more if there was a lesson observation, for example, of a performance. I don't know.
Yeah, you definitely got the same kind of adrenaline rush, and you've got the performative element of it. But yeah, you're right. You have to be yourself as well, don't you?
Yeah, I suppose it needs to be a balance of acting and being your real self, so that you can connect with your learners and build those relationships. So you decided to train as a physics teacher. Had you always loved physics?
No, it was the only. Oh, like I said, school was dead easy for me. Like everything just sort of came quite. I was just a massive geek, obviously. But I really didn't like physics at all, because it was just the classic. It was just our generation's classic, just old, man, obviously. Like, just, I don't even remember him turning round from the blackboard, because it was a blackboard and chalk and just maths. I honestly thought until I was about 27 that physics was just maths on a blackboard. And then, such a cliche, like watched a Brian Cox documentary about the universe. I was like, what? Oh, wow. Like, while me and all my drama school mates were staring at the sky going, whoa, what's it all about, man? It's like, no, some people are actually trying to answer those questions. Like, some people are paid to really in-depth answer what's out there. Like, you don't just have to guess.
Wow. So do you credit really Brian Cox as being that moment that
I think actually, yeah, because he's sort of just more, he's just an average guy, isn't he, with like a sort of dodgy haircut. And I didn't know that physicists could be like that, which sounds really old-fashioned now. Like, I think now, hopefully, kids are much more aware that all aspects of science are sort of quite cool and useful.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think for kids in school at the moment, there's so much drive to get girls into STEM subjects as well,
Oh.
and people like you, Lara. I mean, I really think you're an important role model for all children, but for young girls as well, to see
Well,
a young woman doing science.
Yeah, the studies are interesting. The studies are fascinating, actually. So the Institute of Physics have done a lot of work into why is it that so few girls are studying physics, and actually simply having a female teacher is not enough. But we know that it's not an innate thing in females, because if you look at all girls schools, there's far more, like, a very typical number. It's not like in all girls schools they don't teach A-level physics because no one wants to do it. Where females are in an all-female environment, as many of them study physics further as the males do. So yeah, there's a lot to it. So but it can't hurt, right? For me to be.
I'm just thinking maybe I need to do another show and we maybe go down the rabbit hole of talking about all of that, because I think it's really interesting. It's a really interesting topic.
I mean, one of the saddest comments I've ever had, and it was meant so nicely, was someone saying, "Oh, my daughter's here, and she says that now she's seen you, she wants to be a lady scientist." And they didn't sort of say, "You can just say scientist." But like, how is like an 8-year-old already picked up on the fact that scientists are men, and if you want to be a scientist and you're female, you have to like phrase it differently. But yeah, there's a problem there.
Thank God we've got people like you, Lara, because that's
right.
And not just you. I'm just going to keep fangirling for like the rest of the show, but not just you, but all of those fabulous science teachers out there, men and women, that are really promoting STEM topics to young girls, and the female science teachers that are really sort of being those role models as well. So talking about teacher role models, who was your favourite teacher at school? And do you think you might have embodied some elements of them? Because when I was talking to Charlotte earlier, we were saying we sort of do draw little bits of our favourite teachers and use them in our teaching style.
I know, and I saw Felix saying that, and I thought, I feel awful that I have nothing. Like, I can't remember any. My teachers were fine. I was in a really difficult class. My class were extremely well behaved. It wasn't anything to do with me, but there was just a lot of distraction, and bless them, they did their best. But it was really only when I started teacher training. I mean, I've got so many heroes from my teacher training. I just couldn't believe.
Do you want to shout a couple of them out?
Just remember Matt. Matt used to sit next to me, and bless him, he would put up with just this like constant landslide of my nonsense spilling over onto his desk. He's just a really good physics teacher. And I used to he just answered all my questions. And I used to, if he was on duty, I'd just follow him around with a pen and paper, like getting notes from him about the lesson I was teaching next. And just so teachers are just so great, aren't they? They just really want everyone to be good at what they want to be good at. He used to just come and watch and then give me feedback, and then just, I don't know. Yeah, I just wanted to be Matt, really. Like, I couldn't put my finger on it, but obviously when, like, it's science, isn't it? You look at Matt's results throughout the year, and his kids just got really good results. And it wasn't because he knew how to teach to GCSE, because they kept changing the syllabus, as we know. It was just that the kids just really liked him and understood what he was saying. It was like some kind of dark magic. It's like this weird combination that, like, both my tutors had, and the best teachers that I've worked with, of like humor and self-deprecation, but sort of sternness. I don't know. So Matt was my favorite teacher. Possibly, I don't feel very stern. But this is the beautiful thing about online teaching, and this is why I always feel sort of really awkward and embarrassed, although it's obviously beautiful when people say, like, "Oh, you're an amazing teacher." This is not teaching. This is a definite skill in itself that has to be learned, but it's not the same as teaching, because there is no behavior management here. There's no time management. Like, I always say that what I do is probably 50% busking, I think. It's just a different product, isn't it? Like, people come and they can leave at any time, so you have to keep them all engaged. Well, this is yeah, you can. You totally can. Well, and even we have a different product, don't we? Because obviously you can see your students, and presumably everyone else can see your students as well. Whereas for my students, a lot of them are using like maybe an adult's profile photo and name, or I maybe don't even know their name. I think they probably feel quite safe. It feels like we've kind of, I think home strangers. Of course, yeah. Yeah. Oh, the Science Alliance. Okay, yeah, well, I'm like you. I've obviously there are people who have been watching since the very first time I went live in March 2020, and there's new people coming all the time. But yeah, I basically just do whatever they want. And they're generally the parents are home educating parents, so they're quite engaged. A lot of them are watching along. So they've got topics that they want their children to learn, and the children are very vocal about what they want to learn as well. But yeah, so they just called themselves the Science Alliance. Like at the end of the lesson, there was inevitably just 15 minutes of chat, and that's when all the best ideas come out. So they call themselves the Science Alliance. We have a mascot now. That's quite new. A worm who wears a shoe. Olivia at age 8. I don't know if it's the same one. They're going to make a plushy toy. We're going to have T-shirts. But anyway, yeah, it's just so there's a real regular like gang that come, and they're so supportive of each other, and there's this real like sense of resilience. And until you said that out loud about people say you can't get the same relationship with people online, I would have said that was true. But actually, it's a real unique thing because there's a constant chat stream going, like constant, and it really took me by surprise, and it took me a long time to get used to. But now I couldn't live without it because it's almost like you're obviously in a classroom. Um, who you get responses from is very much kind of decided by who's got the confidence and who knows they're going to be right, and maybe the sort of social relationships in the class. But online, it's like you just see the inside of every child's brain continuously, and I can decide like there's no inhibitions. They can just, as long as they can type, or they've got an adult with them who can type, they can just write whatever they want at any time. And it's actually, yeah, and like I have done last year, we did an online, a real life event that a lot of them came to, and it was weird because we did feel like we knew each other. Definitely help build relationships. Obviously not the same as in the classroom, but I've been really surprised at how some lessons there's a good atmosphere and some lessons don't go well, even though all of it is obviously just really me talking to myself into a screen. Oh yeah. it's It doesn't feel like I'm on my own. Yeah, it really doesn't feel like it. It is lovely. I can really picture Kurt, the little boy who loves fire engines, who gets really excited if I put a fire engine in my background because his sister's watching. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, we undoubtedly do. Well, and I have like a lot of parents say, "Oh, we were just chatting about you at the dinner table the other day," and I really had to remind myself that I don't actually know you. Yeah, it's quite sad. I mean, obviously, lockdown being what it was, a lot of these parents do kind of class them as friends. Like I've definitely spoken to them a lot more in the last 18 months than I have, people that I've met. Yeah. Well, you're the closest thing I have to a colleague, so this was quite dangerous. Yeah. Mm, definitely. Bye.